3, 2, 1. All right. Who knows what Akbash is? Who's ever heard of Sheshank? No. Nobody knows what Akbash is. Nobody's ever heard. Or Sheshach. Yeah, Sheshach. There's a place in the Bible says, when Sheshach shall come, then so-and-so will happen. So we are in a time of Akbash and Sheshach. Okay, Akbash is when you make a code. You take one letter, and you've got your key over here, and that letter corresponds with a different letter on that key. So if A is on here, A is actually T on here. So if you see A, you know that translates to T. And the Jews were very good at this, and when they were writing some things, they knew that the people in Babylon or the people in Rome or whatever, they want to see all this. So that's why they would use this code in certain situations, and probably why God used a lot of visual things on the if okay, it says know the number of his name, 666. Okay, basically John was saying, because that adds up really to Nero's name. If you want to know who's coming in the future, look at who's here right now. Look at who's splitting Christians in half right now. Look at who's persecuting Christians, who's killing Christians wholesale because they will not call him a god, which is exactly what's going to happen in the future. So all this imagery that we know, the world have a clue. A beast with 10 heads or 7 heads and 10 horns is like, well, it's just, if it had said the revived Roman Empire, or if it had said Nero's name, they would have simply took that scroll that he read on Patmos and said, no more. So despite Facebook's best efforts, I'm here again this week because I got hammered again this week. But it was only like a one day suspension on my timeline, and 3 days on groups, and 30 days they moved me down low in all the feeds. So, it just helps me to know that Facebook loves me enough that they actually check on me that much. So, to say we're in a time of heavy monitoring is, or at least I am, I don't know about y'all, is very accurate. So we're going to say things like, if we want to talk about a former President Horn, or the president before him that was Mr. Bummer, or certain famous Dr. Ouchie. You'll understand what we're talking about. Yeah. You'll understand that certain words are just flagged words, and I can't say them, So anyway, God's calling. Shoot. All right. Who knows what's going on with what's about to go across our Presidente's desk? The WHO is trying to do a world takeover right now, and they are
takeover of what?
They are of all health emergencies. As in, if they deem that our nation needs to be shut down, all they do is sign an edict and our nation shut down, or any nation that they choose. Okay, I listen to who knows who Rick Joyner is? Morningstar. Okay, Morningstar. Have you listened to him much? Have you? No. Okay. Okay. Well, he's shown all this that's going to happen for decades. He said I thought when Ahab and Jezebel were in office that this was it. He said, I really thought that when President Bummer was in office that this was really it. He said, I never knew it was going to get this bad. He said, but God showed him. He said that, he said that literally almost every state will pull away from, it'll be so bad that almost every state will pull away from the federal government. And that there'll be like pitched battles along the border. Most people don't know that. Who knows that Hitler tried to have an alliance with Mexico to get Mexico to attack America, to keep us busy, to keep us out of the war. Oh. So if the modern day Hitler, Mr. Q-Tip, has the same plan, then we could look at stuff like that. Possibly because that's exactly what Rick Joyner saw happen. He saw battles on the southern border. So pray that who doesn't get their way, and that if somebody got on stage like a certain redhead and said that federal government overrides everything, who would believe her? If you don't know your Constitution, then you'd say, yeah.
Half the world,
Yeah.
the United States.
Yeah.
For
No,
states
have more control than federal government does. So if the feds say do something, the state says no. That's why when certain mandates came out, they said, well, the government said mandate. It's like, well, my state didn't. And we'll have not only sheep nations and goat nations in the end, but we'll have sheep states and goat states in the end. Okay. So there'll be places where evil will congregate massively and places where good people will flee and get out and have their Pele moments, Pele transition. And just like the Jews who were in Jerusalem said that, oh, God will never let this happen here. And all the Christians were smart and listened to what Jesus said and what the angel told them and got out. And while the Christians were farming in Pele and having a good life, people in Jerusalem were surrounded and eventually all got killed or taken into captivity.
Yeah, when Titus came into Jerusalem, recorded history says they took every male above 12 years and up and crucified them. There were 60,000 crosses outside Jerusalem. 60,000. It was a tough time, wasn't it?
It was a bad time.
It was tough.
And it's to tell you how history repeats itself too. The Jews were known for being a wealthy people, and they knew that back in Rome. They knew that in Germany. Okay. When there were people trying to sneak out the sewers in Jerusalem, and there's holes. They showed the holes now where the Romans had knocked holes in. They'd catch people. They would pull them out and they would gut them to look at their stomach contents to see if they had gold or jewels or whatever. Okay. Why do you think they burned them in the ovens? There's videos. They had massive piles big as this church of buried bodies. But if you burn them in the ovens, then all you got to do is sift through the ashes. Gold and silver and jewels don't burn up.
Another interesting thing is from 1915 to 1935, the Russians settled 250,000 Jews in Ukraine. Then they changed their mind, took away all their land and scattered them all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are 100 years later, and Ukraine's still having big problems. Think about 250,000 Jews. They set them all up in farms. A bunch of Jews from New York and Germany. They sent 1,000 tractors and millions of dollars to get all these Jews set up in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Then 10 years later, the Russians.
Yeah, listen, you do Abraham dirty, and you're going to get done dirty too. And that's just. I told that to a guy one time. I was discussing some financial things with, and obviously a replacement theology guy, and he was just like, "Oh no, it's nothing to do with Abraham anymore. Nothing to do with Jews. Nothing to do with Israel. It's all just the church and nothing but the church." And I was like, I don't think so. But anyway, we're gonna take care of everything. Oh, the 2030. Who knows what the 2030 plan is? Their 2030 plan is they will own everything. You will own nothing. You will rent everything from them. Okay. I'll have a little clip next week. I wasn't prepared this week, but they actually, people have so fallen in love and lockstep with their plans that this actually accelerated now. In other words, people are on board with it. They're giving away their freedom. Because that's Marxism says you make enough chaos that people will give away their freedom to have stability. That's what Marxism is. It's one of their core doctrines. You make enough chaos, then come in and be the savior, be the hero, and people will gladly give up their liberties just so you'll protect them. Or as one pastor put it, the further a society gets away from God, the more they just rely on the government. 2 years ago, who was the vast majority of Americans looking to? Were they looking to God or were they looking to the government?
The government.
Yeah. The government's going to take care of this. Government's going to save us.
Yeah, we'll just shut down the churches, and they just kind of rolled over and said, okay,
Yeah.
we can't go to church.
I was listening to Jay
We're gonna
Botticelli.
die if we go to church.
Listen to Jay Botticelli talk about that this morning, and he said that was, he said they were not even let people meeting in houses, Sunday school classes in houses, church classes in houses, parking lots. They were shutting down. Literally, he said that was a gross violation of First Amendment rights. But because they had a certain number of high-level people who were hooked up with other high-level people, so you see how just a few, one Africanized queen can run a hive, can't Lonnie? She starts having children after herself, and next thing you know, the good people die off, and there's nothing left of that. So how do you fix that? You change leadership. You change leadership. You go in there, you find her, you paint your head, and you put in a good queen, and just next thing you know, you got good workers, and you got a great hive again.
And I have pictures.
All right.
If anybody wanted to see them.
Better not put that on Facebook. They'll be asking you for drones.
Oh, yeah. Well, sad to say, it's already on Facebook.
Kill him. He's an insurrectionist.
No.
But
No.
I sort of bill how many of your renters, if they say, you have to take the mark or we're going to take away your subsidies, your rent subsidies.
18 out of 20.
18 out of 20. No, don't take away my rent subsidy. Please, I'll be homeless.
Yeah, well, it's a serious thing. And the worst thing you do in that situation, go ahead.
Don't take away my stamps, my food stamps. Oh, goodness, I can starve.
And that's hungry people are very compliant people. But as far as us, the worst thing anybody in this room could do is say, well, I would do this. Because if you want to be put in that situation, brag about how well you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, I guarantee you.
Go ahead, Henry.
That's like I was when I was teaching at the Votech. I'm saying 75% of my students, you get to figuring the food stamp. I mean, me hearing them talk, the food stamps they was getting, the government checks they was getting, the free housing, government was paying most of the electricity
And the
and
schooling,
all this stuff, and the schooling, all that.
and the tools.
They was making twice as much money as I was,
Oh, yeah.
and not working.
Yeah. Well, there's people who scam
So, I
everything.
mean,
But
in a way, you can't blame them.
well, I noticed that
They
when,
couldn't go to work and make near what they was.
under a former administration, when they come out and they put in a certain health law and suddenly all the 40-hour people were cut back to 20-something hours, so the company wouldn't be forced to pay like $7,000 or $8,000 per person that they hired for insurance. They said, well, it's great that you have all this free extra time now. You can pursue your hobbies on 24 hours worth of work a week. Unless your hobby's watching grass grow, you're kind of, but then I saw these same people, they had free insurance under that, but they would say, I need to get ahead in life. So they'd work a second job. And then all of a sudden that second 20-something hour paycheck, almost all of that went to pay insurance. So really they were incentivized to not work. I mean, what do you do? I mean, if it's going to cost you everything that you make to have 10 more cows, are you going to have 10 more cows? Probably not. It's just, so we're not here to bash anybody for sure, because, when we were on the board, how many people rolled up here looking for help that drove better cars than we did?
Every day.
Yeah, better vehicles than we did. Wasn't it where that said that we dealt with one once, and then they come back about 2 or 3 years later, and the first time they said that they needed the gas to get down to see their son in Batesville, and he's going to have surgery, and they come back the second time, and you recognize them, they didn't recognize you, and you said, "How's your son doing?" They said, "What son?"
What's
Or the people that got all 3 churches in a row here to call from Colorado, please help my family, because they're away from Colorado and I'm stuck in Colorado and I can't help them. And then Colorado just happened to magically appear in Salem. So there's people that sit by road signs and dirty clothes that make more money than I do, and they got better vehicles, stuff like that. I ain't worried about, those people will come to their own bad end. We need to help people. We need to be smart, but we need to help people at every opportunity. When we were on the board, the thing was, Bible says, let us do good to all men, especially those as we have opportunity, especially those of the household of faith. So
I would vote no, and Tony would vote, I believe in charity.
Yeah, you and Scrooge, two peas in a pod.
Hey, listen, I remember the infamous vote. Who remembers when our parking lot was chat? Gravel. Press and seal chat, I remember that infamous vote back in the early 90s. Okay, it's gonna cost us $15,000 to pave this parking lot. And the only two people that voted against it was me and Lisa. Like, no, we were Judas. This money could have been taken from, could have been fed the poor. It took me a little while to realize God ain't poor, and God will provide as He needs for everything. So, go ahead and read.
Okay. Ezekiel 3:16. After 7 days, the Lord gave me a message. He said, Son of man, I have appointed you as a watchman for Israel. Whenever you receive a message from me, warn people immediately. Then the Spirit came into me and set me on my feet. He spoke to me and said, Go to your house and shut yourself in. There, son of man, you will be tied with ropes, and you cannot go out among the people. And I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you will be speechless and unable to rebuke them, for they are rebels. But when I give you a message, I will loose your tongue and let you speak. Then you will say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Those who choose to listen will listen, but those who refuse will refuse, for they are rebels. 18:1. Then another message came to me from the Lord. Why do you quote this proverb concerning the land of Israel? The parents have eaten sour grapes, but their children's mouths pucker at the taste. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, you will not quote this proverb anymore in Israel. For all people are mine to judge, both parents and children alike. And this is my rule. The person who sins is the one who will die. And yet the people of Israel kept saying, the Lord isn't going to. The Lord isn't doing what's right. O people of Israel, it is you who are not doing what's right, nor I. Therefore, I will judge each of you, O people of Israel, according to your actions, says the sovereign Lord. Repent and turn from your sins. Don't let them destroy you. Put your rebellion behind you and find yourselves a new heart and a new spirit. For why should you die, O people of Israel? I don't want you to die, says the sovereign Lord. Turn back and live.
All right. There was a question over here on the next page, I think. What are some reasons why people are sometimes reluctant to warn someone who may be on the brink of disaster?
They think maybe they'll push them off the cliff.
Well, the thing is, you don't want to be verbally abused normally. I can listen. There are spiritual things out there that, okay, most of y'all are locked on. Now, Bill, I know you step out on the edge all the time.
Boy, yeah.
And Lonnie, I know you witness everybody as much as you can, but I'm out there in the nether sphere, and I noticed that when President Bummer was in office, that if I went on any of the grief sites and I even said anything about God, I got beat. I got hammered. If I said anything about abstinence, I got beat twice as hard. And then when President Horn got in office, it disappeared. I could talk freely. It was the most amazing thing I had ever. It was. I could go back and if I could pull up timelines from up to 2016 and then afterwards, it amazed me. I could see the comments pre and post, and it was just like I could speak freely. And now we're back to where you say all that again, and you will get beat down, big time. So anyway, who remembers the John Paul Jackson prophecies that we went through about 6 or 8 months ago? Went through like 4 or 5 a week.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're gonna just blaze through them right now and just see. Y'all can say whether you think it's happened or think it hasn't happened. All right. Because these weren't given to him in any particular order. Just like he would have a dream, he would see like a newspaper come up and stand before him with a big broad, headline on it.
And we need to state that John Paul Jackson has been taken,
Yeah, he's taken
From
out of
this
the course.
earth.
Yeah.
Way before
Yeah.
these prophecies.
Oh yeah. These were back like
He
32.
didn't see the news and then prophesied.
yeah,
what's gonna
these are
happen.
like 20 years old. All right, too big to fail fails. The nation's bank being pushed. That could have happened in 2008. Glenn Beck says, that they say that they loaned like $5 trillion out. He said they finally released the records. Like they put like a 15-20 year moratorium on. They finally released the records, and it says go through everything, and wasn't just our banks; it was nationwide. They said it's more like 30 trillion, and most of it wasn't paid back. So we can see big people with big money are just using things to get that money, and then they get more money because they get in place of power where they either pay people or they bribe them or they coerce them with blackmail because they catch them doing something that they don't want to do, okay, or they shouldn't have done. Is the infrastructure of America beyond repair? We hear people talk about that all the time. They're wanting to send $40 billion overseas right now, and bridges falling apart, streets look horrible, states can't make their own budgets. Okay, the rise and fall of political parties, third party gains ground. Now I believe we're in the process of this right now. Kim Clement prophesied about this, and he said that. That for once, when we get through this, that our nation was truly one, that everybody laid down their angst against each other, and we really had to come together to defeat what was coming. And I could see that very much so. Washington Monument tilts more. Okay, so that's not happened yet. The Great Divide, and this is what disturbs me. The Great Divide, the new normal on the Mississippi River after an earthquake that could no longer go up the river. Okay. John Kilpatrick, the man from the Brownsville Revival, woke up, and we saw that same thing through another one from Morning Star. Said that God says, if you divide my land, if you divide Jerusalem, I will divide your land. Okay. And he was shown that the Mississippi River basically opened up into a sea, inland sea. You talk about you'd have to go back to barges and ferries. Who remembers how long it took to get across the mountain home back 40 years ago?
I hated it.
So, and my advice then, I've told people that live
I
along.
enjoyed the ride myself.
Yeah, well, it's kind of relaxing.
Little fishing.
They wouldn't let you fish off of it.
And if a gas truck showed up, you didn't go with him. You went
by himself.
It was hot, miserable, cold in the winter, sit and wait for that ferry.
Yeah, and then you go by, you see 30 cars go by, so ferry let up. They said that's why I tell people, listen, if you're in the New Madrid area, St. Louis, Memphis, or even possibly where my children live, if you have a massive earthquake, get your family and get in your car, and if you're on the Tennessee side, drive east as fast as you can. If you're on the other side, drive west as fast as you can. Okay, because if suddenly a good section of East Arkansas is underwater, you don't want to be there. Okay. Now I got a friend at work that said where the Mississippi's at right now, it's not the original channel. And if that backed up, it would go to the original channel, and that might be down through St. Louis and Memphis. So that would be a bad thing. I'm not sure how deep the Mississippi is, but I guarantee you when it's rolling through the streets, it'd be a little bit deeper because of all the buildings. Okay. Washington, D.C. riots continues, possibly fulfilled. Chicago up in arms, death toll mounts. Not sure.
Not
that one.
sure. What do you mean, not
What-
sure?
Well, yeah, that's every day up there.
Yeah.
But, that's one thing that Reagan said. He said that was where they marched the National Guard back during the Great Depression because there was so much unrest there and so many people with nothing to do, no job, no work, no nothing.
Where was the shooting yesterday? The grocery store?
I'm not sure.
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York.
Where's the Navy? Why didn't we see this coming? I believe this is when the nation starts with the R, hits us from the East Coast, because there's been a lot of people seeing that too. There was a guy named, you probably know who Henry Gruver is, don't you? No, Henry Gruver, he's well worth listening to. He may be passed by now, but he was somebody from like 15 years ago. And he said that God showed him, said that, he said, I saw that nation hit us from the East Coast. He said, I saw missiles come. And he said, and then there was a great earthquake and the missile fell to the ground. And after the seminar, the scientist went up to him and said, how do you know about our missile system, defense system, or whatever, missile systems, guidance systems? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, if a missile fires and there's like an earthquake or something like that, and it loses true north for just a fraction of a second, it'll disarm itself and fall to the ground. So God can still do miraculous things with the earth to protect his people. Okay. But, Dana, one of David Coverstone's dream was that generals sitting in places, moving ships out of the way where somebody could actually slip in and do all this stuff like that. New United America being pushed. Canada, Mexico, and USA talks. Bankers on. Okay. They're wanting to make the Americas one thing. Listen, God set borders in place. God said, I put borders in place. You mess with my borders, I'll mess with your borders. So what are we seeing right now? It's an attempt to make no borders on the South. Now you try to get into Canada. If you carry 3 cans of skull into Canada, they'll turn your hiney around or they'll take your skull away. If you carry more than 2 dozen eggs into Canada, they'll stop you and take you. In fact, if you say, I want to move here, they say, do you have a job? Because we're not going to support you. And so it kind of funny to me when people in Canada kind of thumb their nose at what's going on down in our border when they won't let anybody up there without a valid reason. I mean, they guard their borders very tightly, very tightly. Now, somebody snuck out a bill to Perry Stone one time, and it actually they wanted to take all the presidents off, and they wanted to put famous bankers on these dollar bills or whatever they were going to use for monetary things. So. GPS loses GPS. How long until we know where we are? Who knows that a plane crashed recently because somebody hacked the system and they lost their GPS. And then it was gone from the news and nobody talked about it anymore. That's, you can do a lot of stuff by hacking. I talked last week, they say 18 food distribution centers have burned down since the beginning of the year. And some of it is they just mysteriously catch on fire. And could somebody be hacking something and turning it on and heating it up? Back in the 90s, Lisa watched when 2020 had a big thing. These superconductor generators that run big cities, they showed how you could hack them through the internet and make them destroy themselves. And they said it takes six months to get another one because they're made in China. Of all places. Okay. 3 planes down from solar tsunami. We've not had that yet. Volcano erupts near Tokyo, 7 million dead, another million missing. We've not had that yet. City tunnel closed after explosion. Not seen that yet. New Year's terror out, new in, and the old. New and in with New Year's terror out with the new and in with the old. So that would probably be like an EMP that, all of a sudden we've gone with all the new and suddenly we're back to the old. And I've had people say that they've had dreams where God showed them that you're going to have to learn how to operate that piece of equipment by hand again. Okay. And that may fall in with the one word from the Morningstar guy of the simplicity. America grows its own food again. Okay. Record set with a number of cities with riot curfews, possibly martial law to extend 30 days. Not seen that yet. Severe cut in number of soldiers. Every time you get a certain political party in office, they gut the military. Nuclear disaster under the high seas, not happened yet. Now, Perry Stone said in that book, The Visions, I think he said that he saw a nuclear plant have an accident that caused the stock market to crash. And I've heard many, many people, valid people say, if you got your money tied up in these big financial organizations, take it out and put it in the small one. Put it in a local bank, put it in a local credit union, protect the money. I'd say the majority of people in here don't have that kind of money, so we ain't got to worry about it. Blight and grains spreading. Not seen that yet. Drought continues, cause prayer to rise. That could have been last year on the West Coast.
It's right now,
Yeah, still, yeah.
right now.
We was griping about getting 5 inches of rain a week, and they're out there begging for it. So I talked to a guy. I said I would prefer to be in my seat than your seat.
When I drove out there with Pastor to Arizona, it was just powder dry.
Yeah. We better be thankful and not gripe about it.
West of Oklahoma, it's dry.
All right, NFL postpones all games till answers found. Possibly happen. Does God play softball? Aha! Hail the size of softball destroy thousands of homes and autos. Was talking to by an insurance man, and one of them, he said out Kansas, it happened just this past month. Softball size hail. He said there's dead cows everywhere. So that we could check that one off. The new North Pole is found in North Russia, so that means a massive shift. That I'm hoping is like a 7-year tribulation thing. Cyber attack cripples grid, multiple collapses with restart efforts. That could have been the Keystone, or not the Keystone, but they've done that to meat manufacturers. They've done that to pipelines. Which one was it? It was on the East Coast.
East Coast.
Yeah. What other secret weapon does Israel have? Has Israel played all its cards? This, I believe, okay, if the nation from the R hits us, I think it would be to keep us, I think by then we're friends with Israel again, and I think it's to keep us from helping them, because I think that's the Gog and Magog war, when God intervenes and steps in and saves Israel. A loss of identity, the cost of being in the new Euro community. Not sure. European Union, you think that was fulfilled in the European Union?
I don't know.
Oh, they had the crypto coin, the Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
the crypto coin took a crash
Yeah.
this week.
That's how they make money. Everything crashes. The billionaires lose millions on paper, then they come back and they make all their money back plus them. Radical solutions create shockwave. Administration says we ran out of answers. Could have happened.
Ran out of what?
Answers. Could have happened. I mean, we've had radical solutions the last couple of years. Still have radical solutions. There's still 5-year-olds forced to wear stuff over their face when they go out anywhere. It bothers me to see teenagers walking down the road wearing something, covering their face up. Still.
And some teenagers really like that hoodie over their face and mask. They're just kind of like
Well,
hiding.
we may all do that when they come out with the facial recognition software everywhere, but you know.
Glasses and a mask and a hoodie.
Yeah.
They
If-
like that.
If missiles hit Jerusalem, Mecca would be hit within minutes. That's obviously Israel against the Muslim nations. Record high temperatures accompany record drought swept south. That would be what, Georgia, Florida, Alabama?
Houston, Texas.
Texas is in drought right now, is it not? Okay, like I said, we may have to deal with a little extra rain, but I thank God for rain. Okay. Demands for classic seeds skyrocket. That's going on right now. Heirloom seeds. If you're going to invest in seeds, get heirloom seeds.
Yeah.
They will produce the way God said. They will produce after its kind.
Well, this morning on Fox News, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were showing survival kits and all that, and then they showed survival seed kits.
Mhm.
A large bucket said it will keep, how long? 25 years?
Yeah.
What concerns me is we've got a lot of people are fleeing the cities right now, which I'm glad for them. And they're buying every postage stamp piece of land they can to get out there 5, 10, 15, 20 acres, putting tents in the middle of it, RVs in the middle of it, building little sportsman cabins locked up the road in the middle of it. And listen, that's great. But how many in here grow a garden? How many of your first garden done really great? Because you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
You think, I'm just going to plant it and it's going to go. Like, you don't understand cucumber beetles, squash bugs. I had 500 planted 600 seeds, had 500 pumpkin plants come up last year. Within a matter of a week and a half, it was reduced down to 200. And I was fighting every day, spraying poison, trying to get rid of it. And just don't understand. I pray for these people that they don't get discouraged and give up. But it's a learning curve. You know, if you're out there listening and you're doing that, then take advice from old timers. You know, I could have saved myself a lot of headaches if I'd listened to people smarter. Derivative panic hits global market. Nah. Food prices lead nations escalating inflation woes. We're there right now. Cisco and Kraft considers guards on delivery truck as food nears 40% of the family budget. We're very close to that right now. Big regulations hit small banks. We've not seen that yet. Credit markets freeze up. We've not seen that yet. The new face of Robin Hood. Flash mobs loot rich neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You know, in California, you can go into anything out there, and as long as you're openly stealing less than $1,000, they won't touch you or arrest your body.
Won't even watch.
Yeah, I mean, you could go in there with a cart, just
Walk out.
yeah.
So
Now,
I
there's no common sense in that.
saw a guy from yesterday in St. Louis, and he said there's a carjacking every day. They're going to the nice neighborhoods, and they're just looting cars. Just, it's chaos up there, he said.
This is why people are getting out of the city and going.
And I think the business to go into is a scooter dealership.
You mean like gas-powered scooters or just scooters?
Yeah, little gas-powered scooters.
Well, I mean, you get a lot of them. I've thought about, I've actually thought of it because they're cheap and they're very gas efficient. And I thought if I wouldn't look like a gorilla on a tricycle, I'd, my pride just won't let me.
There's a woman around town here, she got an electric bicycle, just a
Yeah.
two-wheel bicycle, electric. You go 17 miles an hour, and then she told me about how far to go to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's good, right now, if you see somebody on a scooter, you pretty well say, there's somebody's got a DWI. Because you can drive one of those. Listen, if you get blind drunk and you get on your scooter and run into a car, you're just going to kill yourself. So you pretty much see a grown man on a scooter, you know that they've got.
In China, the streets are covered with them. Mexico, they're covered with them.
That's all they can afford.
And so I think it's coming here. So
Possibly. Listen,
scooter dealership, definitely in the big cities.
Yeah.
Scooter dealership could be.
necessity is the mother of invention. You got
I
to do
don't
what you
see
got.
myself riding.
Like I said,
I don't see myself Nora riding behind me in one, but it's possible.
like I said, my gorilla on a tricycle. So, and if I look like one, you look like a bigger gorilla. But you got to do what you got to do. We may get to the point where Lonnie's riding his moped and we're all pulled behind in a little red wagon.
I'm going to join the Amish.
We used to have this guy that lived up the street from us in Missouri. He didn't have a driver's license because he lost it because he drive drunk all the time. But he would take his tractor and go to the liquor store and come back.
Hey, we've had customers roll up that couldn't get licenses that rolled up to town and country with lawnmowers and little trailers behind them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess we are out of time. We're over time 2 minutes.
Well, all I got to say is when they demand 20 electric cars, they can buy me one.
Yeah, hey, if they want to subsidize it, let them subsidize it. And if they subsidize ethanol, so.
Yeah,
Right.
they keep saying electric cars, but they don't tell you what it's gonna cost to have that box hooked up at your house.
It's not cheap. And if you just do it through a regular extension cord and a 110 outlet, it takes like 2 days. To do it.
Yeah.
But they're pushing an agenda and they're not,
Yeah,
they're really relying on everybody. Shoot, we didn't get to watch it, did we?
I don't think the electric grid will hold up with everybody having electric cars.
And where's that electricity coming from? That we're charging the cars with?
Free from the sun.
From the sun, yeah, you bet. That'd be about 3 weeks to charge that battery.
Yeah. Or we could all get those windmill powered cars. Charlene had a video for us to watch. I think if it's okay with you, Charlene, we're going to wait and do that on a big screen next. Because
That's
I think it's okay. So we're going to do that. But we are in, next week. Tune in next week. Don't miss next week. You'll want to see it. And pray for our leaders, even the people you don't like. Okay, so we may live peaceful lives.
Pick woke up. Dizzy, you know.
She ran.
Yeah.